Welcome to Muscles and Malarkey, a podcast about all things strength, fitness, and fun. I'm your host, Mary. Today's episode is honestly one that I didn't expect to record. In fact, this episode almost didn't happen. And honestly, my first instinct was to fake it, to come on here with a polished episode and pretend I had it all figured out. But that's never really been what this podcast is about. Lately, I've been in a bit of a funk, not just with training, but creatively too. I sat down to plan out this week's episode and thought, I have absolutely nothing interesting to say. And then I realized, maybe that's exactly what we should talk about. Because if I'm feeling this way, I can almost guarantee I'm not the only one. We spend so much time talking about motivation, discipline, PRs, meet prep, and crushing goals. But what about the days or weeks when you just don't feel like showing up? Not because you hate lifting, not because you're quitting, you're just off. So today, let's talk about that. I think social media has really convinced us that everyone else is constantly motivated. Someone is always hitting a PR. Someone's always waking up at 5 a.m. Someone's always posting the perfect workout. Meanwhile, you're sitting on your couch wondering if putting on gym shoes counts as progress. The truth is, even people who love lifting go through seasons where the excitement isn't there. I was actually talking about this with Lizzie the other day, and I'm glad to know I'm not the only one. Because it doesn't mean that you've failed. It doesn't mean that you're lazy. It doesn't even mean you're losing progress. It means you're a human being with a life outside of the gym. One thing I've learned is that not feeling like training can mean a lot of different things. Sometimes you're mentally burned out, or you're physically exhausted, and sometimes life is just a lot. Maybe work has been stressful, or you're emotionally drained, or maybe you're sleeping terribly. And maybe you've been pushing yourself for months without really giving yourself a chance to recover. And sometimes you just don't want to go to the gym. And that's allowed. The important part is figuring out why, because the solution depends on the cause. This is probably the biggest mindset shift I've had over the years. I don't rely on motivation anymore. Seriously. If I only trained when I felt inspired, I guarantee you I'd miss a lot of sessions. And instead, I've started asking myself different questions. Can I show up for 20 minutes? Can I get through my warm-up? Usually what I'll tell myself is, get through your first exercise, and if you still want to go home, you can. Sometimes that turns into a full workout, and other times it doesn't, but either outcome is okay. If you are also feeling like you're in a funk and you're wondering, what should I do next then? Here's what I do. First and foremost, lower the bar. Not forever, just for today. Because sometimes that win is just walking into the gym in the first place. Or maybe it's just doing your accessories, or maybe you go for a walk and do a little bit of stretching. Now, second, I stop trying to force perfection. Not every workout has to be amazing. Not every week has to be productive. Consistency isn't building from perfect days. It's built from average ones. The metaphor I like to use is depositing into the bank. Every single workout is accumulating in your bank, 1% better every single day. Now, third, I check in with myself honestly. I will ask myself, am I avoiding the gym because I'm tired? Because I'm anxious? What is going into this resignation of going into the gym? The answer to those questions will require different solutions. So be honest with yourself when asking these questions. And also give yourself some grace when you do find the answer. Because getting upset with yourself when you are answering yourself honestly doesn't typically lead to a good solution, right? I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned over the last few years is that if lifting stops being fun for me, I have to get curious about why. Because let's be honest, most of us didn't start working out because we loved tracking percentages and timing our rest periods or arguing with ourselves about whether an RPE was actually an 8 or a 9 or an 8.5, okay? We started going to the gym because it made us feel good. The gym has challenged me, it's given me confidence, and it's connected me with so many people. And somewhere along the way, it can get really easy to turn something you love into another item on your to-do list that you just have to check off. Another obligation, another thing you have to be good at. And when that happens, even something you genuinely enjoy can start to feel heavy. And believe me when I say, I have been there. There have been seasons where every workout felt like it had to mean something. Every session had to move me closer to a goal. Every lift had to be better than the last one. I put so much pressure on myself that I forgot why I loved being in the gym in the first place. Now, when I notice that happening, I try to ask myself a different question. Not, how do I get more motivated, but how do I make this enjoyable again? Maybe that's lifting with friends instead of by myself, although with the amount of talking I do, I probably should work out by myself more. Or maybe wear that sign on my back that says, "Do not talk to me, I'm easily distractible and I need to get my workout done." We'll find out. If I'm trying to make the gym something I'm looking forward to more than resigning myself to going, I will dip into some really fun playlists and maybe jam out between sets. In the past, when I have been in a funk or in a rut, I will communicate with my coach and just say, hey, can I work on this variation? Because I've never done a cambered box squat before. Or, oh, hey, I think I want to try and get really good at this weird accessory because it looks fun and challenging to me. And that's what's going to help me get motivated and stay motivated to go to the gym consistently again. Not everything in your program has to be the most optimal thing. I think that we forget that consistency isn't just built on discipline. It's also built on enjoyment. And if you dread every workout, eventually you're going to stop showing up. But if you can find little moments that make you smile, that make you feel strong, or remind you why you fell in love with this in the first place, those moments carry you through the hard seasons. I know for me, some of my favorite gym memories aren't my biggest lifts. They're the ridiculous conversations between sets, laughing until I can't brace for a squat, or cheering someone else on when they hit a PR, or stopping for coffee after training. I'm not joking you. The number of times we've said to each other, oh my God, we need to do a mic'd up session because we are ridiculous. We've said it a lot. It's those kind of moments that made me realize the gym isn't just where I go to get stronger. It's where I get to do life with some really incredible people. The weights brought us together, but they aren't the reason I keep coming back. So if you're in a funk right now, maybe don't ask yourself how to become more disciplined. Ask yourself, what would make this fun again? Because maybe that's exactly what you've been missing. I think sometimes we accidentally make fitness our entire identity. When training is going great, we feel great. When training isn't going as well, suddenly we feel like we're failing at life. Guys, we are more than our lifts, or more than our programs, or our body weight, or the total at our last competition, or our dot score, or whatever. We are allowed to have hobbies, vacations, friends, bad weeks, busy seasons. The gym should add to your life, not become the thing that determines whether it's a good or a bad day. I'm going to say a few things because maybe you needed permission to hear this today. At the risk of sounding like way too granola, I am a fan of positive self-talk and giving yourself grace, because I feel like when you do that, you allow yourself to take rest breaks, but then also show up intensely and intentionally when you are feeling 100%. So, open your ear holes, my friends. You do not have to be crushing every workout. You don't have to love every training session. You don't have to be motivated all the time. You just have to keep taking the next step. Sometimes that next step is a heavy squat. Sometimes it's putting your shoes on. And sometimes it's taking a rest day without feeling guilty. All of those count. If you've been feeling stuck lately, I hope this episode reminded you that you're not alone. These seasons come and go. The goal isn't to never lose motivation. The goal is to build a relationship with movement that's strong enough to survive those seasons. And maybe that relationship gets a whole lot stronger when we stop chasing perfection and start chasing enjoyment. Because at the end of the day, I don't want lifting to just be something that makes me stronger. I want it to be something that makes my life richer. The friendships, confidence, the laughter between sets, the community, those things matter just as much as the numbers on the bar. So, if you are in a funk, give yourself a little grace this week, lower the bar if you need to, find one thing that makes training fun again, and remember that showing up doesn't always have to look impressive. It just has to be enough for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. Send me a message and tell me, what's something that helps you reconnect with the joy of training when you're in a funk? As always, yee-haw and yee-claw, everybody. Do. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow, share, rate, and review. It helps the podcast grow and reach more people. Do you have any questions or suggestions? Email me at musclesandmalarkey@gmail.com or find me on Instagram at musclesandmalarkey. Yeehaw and yee-claw, everybody.